You're listening to the Military Millionaire Podcast, a show about real estate investing for the working class. Stay tuned as we explore ways to help you improve your finances, build wealth through real estate, and become a person that is worth knowing.
Hey guys, if you're looking to take your investing, business, life, or just yourself to the next level, then I have something for you. The War Room Real Estate Military Mastermind Group is a mastermind group that meets weekly in small groups of 5 to 6 people to help you hold yourself accountable and really experience that growth. But we also have a monthly guest speaker that we bring in, and we've had guest speakers that talk about mindfulness, taxes. We're bringing in somebody to talk about marketing. We bring in very specific topics that will adhere to very broad, any kind of real estate investing or entrepreneurship that you want to do, and will really help you out. And we let you ask these speakers questions and get very personal with them. And then back to the small groups, weekly accountability for what you're trying to achieve, and just being surrounded by like-minded people. And they say your network is your net worth. I know that's an overused phrase, but I recommend that you check it out. So just shoot an email to wrmastermind@gmail.com. Once again, that's wrmastermind@gmail.com, and we'll send you some more information.
What's up, military millionaires? We are
What's
here
up?
today with David Gutierrez, who is, I don't know if I can say friend, mortal enemy. David is the co-founder of Storehouse 310 Ventures, which is the turnkey company that you've heard Stu Grazier on here at some point talk about. He's also a commander in the Navy. He does some cool stuff. He wears ball caps backwards, which makes him, like when I was in high school, that made you the cool kid. So, he's got to be the cool kid. And he's a friend, right? So like Alex and I and David, we're all members of this mastermind group. And so we bust each other's chops all the time. And, he finally decided that he would grace us with his presence. And we're going to record a podcast. It's going to be a good time. So David, welcome to the show.
Yeah, no, hey, thank you. Great intro, Dave. A lot of real flattering things there. I've never really had quite an intro. I want to correct the record since we're recording a couple things. So one, I don't wear the hat. Well, no, let's even start before that. When you're in high school, even if you wore a hat backwards, you were not the cool kid. I just want to make sure that's understood. You are always the cool kid, even now. The hat is the light from above. I'm bald. So it sends a reflection on the recording that you don't want that. And I didn't wear it the other way because then it puts a shadow on your face. So it's very practical. And I haven't shaved my head for a couple of days. So I look like a hippie. So there you go.
All right. Well, very well. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I appreciate it. Appreciate being on with you guys. Oh, actually, one more correction. I have never been invited on this show. I've been asking. I've actually never invited myself to any show, but I have been asking you to have me on your show for a couple months now since we had you on.
That is how awesome our show is. We appreciate you.
Well, 100%. But yeah, so like you said, commander in the Navy, been in for 18 years. Currently the commanding officer of Cyber Strike Activity 63 in Fort Meade, Maryland. And then Stuart Grazier and I were both Naval Academy roommates a long time ago, and have been friends and brothers and for since then. And we decided to start a turnkey company based on our experiences with our own experiences that we had going through providers in different parts of the country that just were subpar. And I always like to say, just to kind of give a little context to that, the company that I had gone with settled out of court for about $30,000. They just wanted to write me a check, and it was all based on just terrible work that they had done and stuff they said they did and didn't do. And it was a bad experience, but it was a blessing in disguise for both Stu and I, because it really prompted us to start a business because we knew we could do it better. So that's Storehouse 310, the background for that. And it's been going awesome. I have a couple more years in the Navy to hit 20. And then it's decision time at that point. But up until that point, we hope to continue scaling Storehouse 310.
Going to 40, right?
What's that?
You're going to 40, right?
Sorry, you cut out. I couldn't quite get the. God bless. I thank God for people that in this country that want to serve for 40 years. I mean, that is what an accomplishment, right? And our country needs it, but that's a long time. To think that you hit 20 years and you're only halfway there, yeah, I don't know.
I couldn't do it.
I love that you said that you're going to start a business because you saw somebody else do it like inefficiently. And I identify with that because there's so many, there's so many businesses that you think are, I guess, daunting because they're there. And then if you really get in the nitty gritty, it's like a lot of businesses are like, they're run by regular people who are, well, I don't know if you know, but we're all flawed individuals. And it's just an interesting insight to be like, yeah, well, if you could do that this bad, I could surely do it at least a little better.
Yeah. No, it's true. That's a great point, Alex. And one thing, I could not go. I don't have as bright of a pink as you do, but I wanted to honor you today, so I wore the closest shade I had, but I can't pull it off as well as you do. So
no one can.
Yeah, there you go. But to your point, what Stu and I realized, and we're run a faith-based business. We're Christian dudes, and one of the biggest things we saw that was lacking in our experience was integrity and a value-based system upon which people did business. And we're like, and honestly, some of our first conversations, we were just like, hey, if we just go into this and we are going to be honest with our clients and do the best that we possibly can, we can't be worse than this company that both of us, we had gone. He was in Alabama, I was in Milwaukee with the particular companies that we had used. And we knew that just from that foundation, we could do better. And so then we went from there, and there were lots of ways that obviously we improved that model and made it our own.
I got to say, this is, this kind of talk depresses me because I get it too, right? People go, Alex, I love you because you're so, genuine. And I'm like, really? Shouldn't that be the standard? And I applaud you guys for doing that, right? If you're like, hey, if I just go into the business and go, hey, look, I'll do the right thing first, no matter what, money second. And I know that's not really what it means, but it kind of means that, right? Where you're like, look, I don't want to be so greedy that I become a sleaze. So I'll just make sure that I do the right thing first. It shouldn't be that hard. And it isn't. But the fact that it stands out in our society is depressing to me, because it's like, how many people are just anything for the dollar, bro? Anything for the dollar. It's like, I'll never do anything for the dollar. And I'm glad. And I think that's why you and I, and there's a group of, David's a stand-up guy, and there's a bunch of people that resonate with each other, because it's like, I have morals. I mean, yeah. I'm not a faith-based business, but I have, like you said, I have integrity. I have morals first. So I love that you said that. And I just had to say, like, I like that stands out to you, but I kind of hate that it stands out.
Yeah. And I will say though, I kind of twist that on its head a little bit. I think that being an entrepreneur is you're in a smaller subset of society already, right? So we're all vets. So already part of our life is less than, 1% of the population serves. As an entrepreneur, we're also a very small subset of people. I think our group even further refines that. And because we have similar morals, we look to be surrounded by the people that we want to be like, that challenge us and that are like-minded. So I'm kind of thankful that we are different. And when I say we, I mean the mastermind that we're a part of, everybody in that group. I could trust any of you guys. I would trust you with anything. Some of the conversations we have are hard conversations. They're personal, they're deep. We talk about our families, our wives, our kids, our mentally the things we're going through, emotionally the things we're going through, physically the pains that we potentially have. And dude, that is powerful stuff, right? And that has been enabled by the fact that we have found and surrounded ourselves with like-minded individuals. So I twist it on its head a little bit. It can be depressing. But the other side of that is I draw great hope and joy from the fact that I'm surrounded by dudes like you guys who are different. And I had as a kid, this resonated with me. A neighbor ran his own business, and this was before I even joined the military. And I was lamenting the fact that, it was an electrician's business. And I was lamenting the fact that a lot of folks in that industry, they don't show up to work and, show up drunk or high. And one of the things that he said was, hey, I thank God that everybody's not like me, because then everybody would run their own business and I would not have my own business. I wouldn't be the guy making the calls. I wouldn't be the guy making the hires or the fires. And for him, it was about cars and money. He was like, and I wouldn't have this stuff. For me, it's not, to your point, Alex, Stu and I did talk about that. Hey, if we have to write checks out of our profit to make something right, like whatever, it's just money, it'll come and go. But all that rant being said, I agree with you. It's interesting how it's a unique characteristic maybe that we do business that way. But I love the fact that we're surrounded by folks that are like-minded and want to do it differently.
I was just having a similar conversation like 2 nights ago with one of my roommates where it was like, I was like trying to figure out the line. Like there's a part of me that's just not like money doesn't matter, right? Like there's obviously a value to it, but like there's a part of me that's just like, if something comes up, it's like, it doesn't like just being like, like it's not a big thing. And I was like, at some point, like people talk about like there's all these mentalities, like there's the mentality of like money's a currency, you got to keep it rolling and just like push that crap away from you and like not care about it. And then there's the other mentality that's like, if you don't focus on, whatever, you lose it. And I'm like, there's got to be like a line, because I was like, I'm very much like, I'm not bad about tracking finances, but I'm bad about like, if there's money in the account, it's got to go. And like it's just not important to me. So I'm like doing whatever. But we brought it up because this guy literally introduced himself to me. He was like, hey, I make $100,000 monthly doing this, this, and this. And it was like an immediately, like, I was just shut down. I was like, oh, right on, dude. Like, that was it. It's like, if that's your introduction, like, I don't know. So all that to say, like, I agree with you guys. Like, there's unfortunately kind of a disparity between the people who, I don't know. Like, you can tell if somebody's running a business just for money. It shows, and it generally doesn't follow or come with like, there's just a vibe that just does not, I don't know. Like, it's just kind of like, okay, cool, man. Not my thing. Like, I'd rather hang out with people who have other, other reasons they want to be successful or come through a different way, because the money will follow.
Yeah, I think you make a couple, really great points. And one, it's how do you identify yourself? One of the things I preach to my sailors is, look, this uniform that makes us all, U.S. Navy makes us all the same and part of this, the service. Each one of us is a very different individual, and this uniform is going to go away. And that's one thing I want my sailors to recognize from the get-go is, look, this is a young man's and young woman's game.
Whoops. So Dave, how you doing?
I mean, he looks stoic at least.
Yep.
Oh, we got him. A young man or young. You were talking about how we're all sailors.
That was interesting.
Department of the Navy.
That was actually my Navy work from home VPN somehow magically without a CAC kicked in. I'm not really sure how that happened. It's a little bit
Hashtag cyber.
It's telling me to get to work. Sorry. So, it's a young man, young woman's game, and your uniform will come off at some point. It has to. And so if that's your identity, that's going to be an issue when that time comes, whether it's at the 5-year mark or the 20-year mark or the 40-year mark. If that's how you identify yourself, that's a problem. If you identify yourself with money, well, when it comes, okay, happens. And so ultimately, if you're identifying yourself that way, you're wrong, in my opinion. The second part of that is money is a tool. I love talking about money. Money is a topic I'm not uncomfortable with. I love talking to anybody about it, but I see it as a tool. And for us, if you have money, you have the potential to change the world and to give. For us, giving is a big part of that. Warrior's Heart is who we give to through the business. We give to our church and a number of different things. And if you don't have money, you can't do that. It's just a tool. So the way you look at these things and you critically think about them and you identify them ahead of time, I think that's the key, right? And that really can frame your identity and really drives your action and potentially motivates what you're trying to do with it.
I love Alex is going to go.
David Foster Wallace wrote this incredible book called Infinite Jest, and it's a daunting read, but it's an important one about American culture of materialism. And in there, he has this really long rant about why he says, he starts with, you should choose your temple of fanaticism carefully, because if you define yourself by something or one person or one shallow idea, it can go away. And but values don't go away. And so I like this because if you define yourself by what you've done in the Army or your rank or your uniform, it's like, yeah, that's going to come to an end one day. And the PR for the military changes, right? Like, we went to the Vietnam War where it wasn't as popular to be in the Army as it is now. I went through this with the gym, right? Because I'm a lifelong gym rat. And it's like, some people get so wrapped up in being the biggest guy in the gym. It's like, dude, you're 26, you're 28. When you're 50, you're not going to be the biggest guy in the gym. And then if you have nothing else, then you have defined yourself as nothing. And so money is the same way. It's like, if you define yourself as I'm the guy that makes X amount per year, it's like, yeah, but what if you don't?
Yep.
Then you have nothing else. And so having something, a temple of fanaticism that is higher than that is really important. Something that can define you as beyond the material. What the visual, the easy, the shallow, easy in front of you thing to describe yourself.
And you have to be pragmatic and realistic, right? You have to realize, so as a lifelong gym guy as well, like I know I'm one rep from some crazy random torn rotator cuff for no reason, because I go this way a little bit more than I should, or because I'm 41 years old, right?
Uh-huh.
Like I'm one rep away from something. So if that's how I identify myself, like you just always have to plan for the worst and hope for the best, right? But if you do that, you can, and you're not being a pessimist, you're just being realistic. So if you go into a military career, and so like I'm completely honored and humbled to be a commanding officer. I didn't plan for that, right? That wasn't part of the, it was a hope, but it wasn't something that I expected, and it can come and go, and it could have never happened. But if that's what I base my identity on for a 20-year military career, then wow, that's kind of sad. Because if you don't get it, then what, right? But just being realistic, you're one decision away from potentially making a ton of money or losing a ton of money. You just never know. You have no idea. You tell me who could have. Well, actually, you can, because these books you read. I was gonna say, who could have predicted COVID-19?
Yeah.
Well, it's been predicted. I almost stepped into it. Almost stepped into
really.
a bed.
But you're right. The idea you're saying is right. So nobody can really predict the future in specificity, and so. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Yeah, if you're like, it's going to be this way. The world has to turn out this way for me to have any value. It's like, yeah, well, the world's it's got different plans.
Yeah, and then you're lost, right?
And then now you're. Yeah.
I love that we're talking about this. Now, it won't be anywhere near as poetic or deep as Infinite Jest or some of these others, but the book that I have at the editor right now, I have this whole section on finding your purpose and identity, because so this community that I've been building has become like it has been huge for me in the fact that it became a hobby, and it's become something that I can be like, hey, when I got out of the military, like I do this, like this is a purpose for me. This is part of my identity. Like I'm this person, whatever. But like I was lucky enough to have someone way smarter than me a few years ago point that out to me. Like, dude, when you get out of the Marine Corps, like, yeah, you're a Marine and you'll always be a Marine. Like if that's all you are, then what? Like what, and his point was essentially like, we're talking about the whole military, like the veteran suicide thing. And the biggest rate is the first 3 years. And when you talk to guys who struggled or came close, like they feel alone, they feel like they don't belong. They feel like they don't have a purpose. Like their identity was so wrapped up in being that person that when it disappeared, like that's crushing especially for men, which we know the suicide rate's higher, like especially for a dude to just lose your purpose or your identity and just be like, well, now what? Like I've seen it. Like it's crushing to people. So I think it's a cool topic that we talk about as far as like, just so for anyone listening, if your identity is that's who you are, like that's awesome. And that should be a part of your identity for sure. Yep. But you need to find out who you are, who's Dave, like when you're, standing in a towel instead of a uniform. Like anyway,
this
towel,
is a big
talk.
This is a big talk from a guy who defined himself by his mustache. You're one set of clippers away from being a.
Hey, but I control that.
There you go. Hey, that's good.
Next time we bunk together in a conference, yo.
that goes both ways here.
Okay. I'm just joking. There's no need to get into
that. Do blow dryers bounce when they get thrown out a window?
I'm happy to mediate between you guys talking about bunking together and zip zipping noises. I'm not really sure what that means, but hey, you do your thing because you do you. But what I will say is, this is one of my favorite topics. I love talking business. I love talking money. I love talking, about faith and all these things. But I will tell you the mindset. And if you listen to our podcast, and both of you have been guests, so thank you for your graciousness in that. But one of the things that Stu and I talk about all the time, because we spend so much time talking about it amongst ourselves with our business, is mindset and your why. And it's kind of become a buzzword, since Simon Sinek, wrote his book, and everybody loves his book, and it's a buzzword. But I tell you, if you take it seriously, then it can really change your life, and it can drive you down a path where the decisions you're going to make before you make them, or before the opportunity presents itself, or the challenge presents itself. You have a good sense for the decisions that you're going to make, or the direction at least that you're going to go. There might be some course correction. There might be a little bit of rudder change, but the general direction you're going to go, because you have established your why. You've thought about it. You've established that mindset, so the direction that you want to go. So I think it's important, man. I think these kind of conversations should happen more often, because there's always fruit is born from these types of discussions. And I'm not really sure what you meant when I take off my uniform and put on a towel, but that's a very interesting transition as well.
Well, I didn't want to just say like when you're standing in the mirror butt ass naked, but I guess I can because it's my show. So when I'm standing in the mirror right before I jump in the shower and I'm looking at my massive hockey puck of a manhood, is that better?
No, it's more. It's actually a little more disturbing. You could have transitioned to anything, right? You're not wearing a uniform. You're wearing a suit.
I don't know why I went with towel. Maybe.
I don't know, man. It's good. Know, whatever. It's good. No, hey, it's your show. I'm a guest. I'm just proud to be here.
I don't want to be a co-host of this show anymore. He's the host. I have nothing to do with this. It's all him.
Oh my God. Can't handle our manhood here now. Well, you were just talking about being in bed with me, so I don't even want to shave my mustache and stuff. Yeah. Anyway, so remember what I said before the show where it was like, it's great. You can say whatever you want. Well, sometimes that's not so great.
Say less. Sometimes you can say less.
Sometimes less is more.
David, tell us about Storehouse. Tell us about the business.
Yeah, so Storehouse is so what we recognized is especially Navy and Marine Corps. We're stationed in super expensive places, right? We're usually typically on the coasts, we're overseas, or in Italy or Japan. We're stationed places that real estate, at least if you're looking for cash flow and steady investment, which is the type of investing that I do. If you're looking for that, it's not usually present in like San Diego, Virginia Beach, some of these places on the coast that are a little more expensive. Once you buy a house there and leave, you don't get the rent just can't cover typically. I learned that lesson in Hawaii on my first property, and I was losing $1,000. It was rented and I was losing $1,000 a month. So that one, I quickly got rid of that. But point being, the turnkey model was something that resonated with me, resonated with Stu, in order to get, cash flowing assets kind of in the middle of the country. The Midwest we love, and down the Southeast, the middle parts of the country really offer the opportunity to do that 1-2% rule for all you VP listeners out there. And so that's a model that I had gone with. And again, that then went through the turnkey company that I use, and the one that Stu used down in Alabama, with the experience that I had alluded to previously. And so we started Storehouse 310 in Milwaukee, and effectively we're buying properties, rehabbing them, and then selling them to our network of mostly military people now, and providing them with cash flowing assets out of Milwaukee, because we really like that market.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have done well. I would be curious to know, what was the biggest challenge, most unexpected challenge with starting a turnkey company?
It's been interesting. Some of the things that we thought were going to be the biggest challenges. So initially, when you go to do your first deal and you have to raise money and you're asking people for money, that is the initial challenge. Like, well, is anybody going to invest in me? We found that very quickly resolved itself, just based on the network, and really what it boiled down to is people's trust in us. You have to have the data, right? You have to have done research and know what you're doing, be able to present an analysis sheet that makes sense. So the next biggest challenge that we thought was going to be a significant challenge was you have to have that back end buyer to recoup that money to pay back your loans. And we thought that was going to be an issue. And for a while it was, right, getting the numbers up to the point where we're consistently selling these houses. Well, that, as you know, has now resulted at our current pace in about a 8-month to year-long waiting list, which is awesome. You know, huge blessing for us, but it's also, you know, it's a challenge because we have to create deal flow. I would say right now, our biggest challenge is just what I identified, is we need to figure out how to scale to a point that we're able to really whittle down that waiting list and get good deals, find enough of them, and be able to provide our investors with those assets. So that's where we're at right now. The challenges always change, like anything, you know, military career. But that's kind of our current issue.
Yeah, that's a good problem to have for sure, but it's still a problem. Like, you know, people listen to a show and they're like, oh yeah, okay, he's got so many people on his waiting list that, you know, so much business he can't keep up. Like, ooh, you know, but that really is a problem, because the reality is, no, not everybody's going to stay that long on a waiting list, right? So
no, man, and we always preach it, right? The thing that when we're asked, hey, you know, what should we do, and we're always saying the same thing: hey, get educated, read some books, you know, but take action now. The best time to buy is yesterday. The next best time is today, right? And so we're always preaching take action. So I've got this kind of dichotomy of I'm telling you to take action, and then I'm saying, but hey, can you wait like a year, you know, to take action with us? And I would never ask anybody to wait a year, but I think that's a testament to the product that we put out and the just kind of the reputation we built, which is, again, is a blessing. But the reality of it, right, being pragmatic, people don't want to wait that long, which is good.
Especially in a super hot market. But, you know, this is a very common problem. Real estate, as an investor, trying to buy a few deals, a guy like me, you know, I buy a few a year, not that hard, not that difficult. But if you want to have inventory at scale, much different story, especially like right now in the market when money's cheap and in abundance. And, you know, the foreclosure market isn't like it was in 2012. So, I mean, scales are difficult. That's a difficult thing to do on real estate because the transactions are so big. And, you know, you need a bunch of money, you need a lot of deals. It's not like Walmart. It's not like you can't just, unless you're doing new construction, right? It's like, you got to go find those deals. Those houses already exist. And, you know, it's not like Target. I just go in and buy 10 off the shelf and go, you know, this is the ones you want, right? No, it's not like that.
Do you guys ever find? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
I was just going to ask if you ever find or buy like portfolios, like if you've had any luck with that. Because I know in Springfield, there's guys who will sell like, you know, 15 houses when they're ready to retire. It's just one.
Yeah, so it's funny because we've now in this last week we've looked at 3 or 4 portfolios, and actually just last night we analyzed another 10 house deal, and those would be amazing. The problem is you're going to get the good with the bad, and you have to be willing to do that. And we're not willing to do. So like the one we analyzed yesterday, 10 houses, 3 of them would work with our model. And the other 7 were super high crime and just things we wouldn't want to sell to our investors. We would not want to. We would not sell to our investors. And so, you know, we're doing the due diligence on the front end for our investors because that's the trust that they're building and relying on. So I can't in good conscience buy that portfolio unless I want to somehow keep those 7 properties, but then that ties up, you know, however many hundreds of thousands of dollars that, and there's a strategy that we're looking at to potentially do something like that, but I also don't want to own houses in a war zone. Right. So, that's the challenge. And every portfolio that we've looked at, we've offered to chop it up and take what we want out of it. And most people are like, no, I mean, you take the good with the bad. Unfortunately, the bad usually outweighs the good. So it doesn't make the deal that profitable. But yeah, we're looking all the time for portfolios for sure.
Yeah, it's a tough market. I mean, you know, it's always competitive, but right now the challenge that you're speaking of are challenges that other people are facing. Like I said, money's cheap. Like I got a guy yesterday who said he did his first flip. He did hard money. He got it at 7.5% in one point.
Hard money at 7.5 at one point? Yeah. Pass me that dude's contact info.
Well, I mean, even still, right? You can get hard money at 9% pretty easy in 1 or 2 points nowadays. I mean, even that, I said, there's no reason why you don't deserve that money. right? You're too much risk. But there's so much money out there that they're buying stuff up and they're driving prices up. And so, it's not free for all like it was 5 years ago. It's definitely more difficult. So scaling up, I'm sure you guys, you're expressing your challenges. I get it. You'll get through it. It's just, you ain't the only one.
Yeah, and we're looking for opportunities, right? We're looking to part of the scaling model that we're looking at is starting a couple different businesses, and ultimately the end state where we really kind of change things up is we want to start the property management, because that's a significant challenge for me is having a process that I don't own, and because of our full-time, both Stuart's still full-time active duty, I'm full-time active duty, the inability to spend all the time on and in the business made it a little bit daunting for us to jump into another business. But it just makes sense, right, to take on the properties after we sell them and then to continue to manage them for our folks. And one thing that I have not enjoyed, because we want to honor our investors, and the warranties that we give, like I oftentimes I'm writing checks, right, and it goes back to what you said, the check that you write, the dollar amount on that check does not it pales in comparison to the amount of trust that you're building and the repeat buyers and all that stuff that you're trying to build, that culture. But I'd rather be writing those checks to myself or the crew that I'm sending out that works for me, that at least I know the work there that is to 100% is going to be satisfactory and to our standard, right? So there's other opportunities to grow businesses. And so you hit the roadblock of deal flow. So, okay, well, let's go start a property management. And then as you grow that property management, there's also deal flows from that, right? There's people that want it, they get tired of it. And there's, you'd be like, I don't want this anymore. Cool. I'll buy it from you.
Yep. Yeah. Like the macroeconomics of the economy that sounded weird, has changed over the last few years, right? So like everybody's buying up single family homes. And so it becomes a little bit more difficult. So it's like, yeah, the time to pivot, like you just said, the time to pivot is, maybe not perfectly, not saying you have to do it 100%, but the idea is like, look, when something starts getting harder, it's like, well, that means there's opportunity somewhere else. And so the first thing I was going to ask you before you brought that up was, why not switch to multifamily? Not to say that that's easier, because it's on the uphill too, right? There's a lot more people doing it. It's a little bit faster way to scale, but it doesn't really work. It's a very different model than turnkey. But I love that you go to the vertical integration. You're like, let's build the property management in-house, because then we can get a lot more residual income. We can take care of our clients better. It obviously provides us the opportunity, like you said, for deal flow, more opportunities. It gets more of our hands on the ground and in parts of these places. And honestly, I think the taking care of the client is probably the most valuable, because the risk of somebody mishandling your client on the property management side is Clayton Morris level catastrophic.
Yeah, man. No, it's huge. And that's what we're most passionate about, right? Like it pains us. We had a conversation with a CPA the other day that just kind of brought something to our attention, and it literally in my gut pained me, because there were veterans that this CPA's perception of what was happening, and I haven't dug further into it, but her perception of what was happening is that veterans were being potentially mishandled, and even, at best it was ignorance, at worst it was taken advantage of. And that just like hit me in the gut, right? Because that's our tribe. So, most of our buyers are vets, like 98% right now. And so that, it's of utmost importance to us, because we're talking about, these are our people, right? These are not millionaires. I mean, they can be, but some of these are junior enlisted Marines that, they just want to build a future. Some of our ensigns out of the, whatever commissioning source they have. And, I'm just saying Navy ranks, and we're open to all ranks, of course, and all services, but it's people that you gotta be special to take advantage of these people, right? Like there gotta be something wrong with you. And I think there should be something wrong with you if you're taking advantage of anybody. But that being said, there are opportunities, and that primary driver for us is creating opportunities for that tribe. So we have actually, we're under contract right now on out in Colorado on a syndication deal that we're GPs of, and raise money for that. And it's been a slog, but, multifamily, like you said, mobile home parks that we're looking at we're always looking at opportunities to create opportunities for our network. And it's out there. Like you say, you just gotta be willing to do the diligence and hustle a little bit to try and find those opportunities. And like you said, Dave, not trying to squeeze every penny out of every person that wants to invest with you also opens up the deal flow a little bit.
I think going vertical is a big player move, and I love it. So I have this buddy Corey. Corey Namoto. He's been on Bigger Pockets podcast, whatever. He's a house flipper, and I got to partner with him. Kind of like he was a guy that I brought a house to and was like, "Can I just follow you around?" And when I was in Hawaii, so I partnered, quote unquote, but I just found the deal and handed it to him. Big flipper, right? Doesn't, in Hawaii margins are weird. Like he won't touch a deal if he doesn't make six figures, but that's because you're throwing in like $600,000, $700,000 is, like purchase price. So, the numbers have to make sense on that amount of money. But about 3 years ago, he was talking about going vertical, and he was the first person I ever met who didn't make it. I didn't know what it was, and now all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm a house flipper, but I also own the real estate brokerage, the contractor, and the hard money company. And it's like that ability to control every piece of your entity. And then also because you're the expert at what you're doing, be able to outsource, because if you build a property management company that's incredible, you don't just have to manage Storehouse, right? Like you can bring other customers in, and then it's very synergistic. And I think it's smart. And I think a lot of people, they think of scale, they immediately think of the multifamily because that's the buzz thing right now. And that can be great, but there's definitely something to be said for scaling vertically in your niche and still being very successful. And I like that opportunity because I think we all have this same little bug in us that is like, once you start creating things, you're like, ooh, how can I, for example, the podcast thing. Like I started podcasting, I had a lot of fun with it. Then I hired an editor. Then I was like, this is awesome. He's awesome. This is great. Hey, what if we become, hey, we edit podcasts now. Like, I don't know. There's just something about that scratches an itch. And I think there's definitely people out there. So anyway, for anyone listening to this, just know that there are other ways to scale without going multifamily. Not that there's anything wrong with multifamily, but people get wrapped up in that and forget you can do other things. So
we'd love to have everything that you just mentioned, right? That's our goal is the acquisition side, that we house that under a Storehouse brokerage, and we're providing jobs for realtors but those jobs, as the realtors are being paid and have a living, they're providing us deal flow because they work for me. And then we have the turnkey part, we have the property management, we have the construction piece, and then ultimately potentially take that construction piece and go do development, right? The sky's the limit. You just have to be willing to do it. So.
All right. I have a few questions.
That's the part I don't like. I don't want to do anything.
So when I say do it, I'm not gonna go out. I'm not gonna find a house. I'm not gonna go swing hammers and nail it and then market it and then drive over there and manage it, right? I'm not. But I think it was Bill Miltel. I always give him credit for this, but I don't remember where I heard it. I heard it in some thing, but it was a vet, and he said the most patriotic thing you can do is serve your country. The second most patriotic thing you can do is to create jobs. And that second part, and Dave, as you talked about it, the creating part of it, I love the idea of building something, whatever it is, that is literally providing jobs for folks and taking care of them. I like that responsibility. That's something that I don't shy away from. I want to have the opportunity to provide those chances for folks. So I love that.
I like that quote.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And then, there's obviously tax advantages that people will hate you for and not understand the system. But anyway, I have a few questions that I always ask people when they're on the show.
Let's do it.
And I did not prep you with these, so you're welcome.
Awesome.
The first
They're very
one,
hard.
Yeah, shut up. You should come up with a fourth question like randomly right now. That is very hard. So you've got about 3 minutes.
Hey, what's your sign?
But your moon sign though, not your. I think that's a thing. I don't know what that. I don't know any of it. Anyway.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
hippy dippy. It's going to tell you your success. You can't be successful without knowing your moon sign, star cluster.
I'll look it up.
Okay. If an E1, E2 walked up to you asking you for advice in life, and you only had like 2 minutes, what would be the one thing you'd tell them?
I would honestly tell them some of the stuff that we were discussing earlier. I would. What I like to do when folks come and ask for advice, I kind of turn on them and say, hey, let's talk about this in depth. What level of thinking have you done into who you are and what you want for your future? And then I think from that basis, when they've put a little bit of consideration into that question, I think you can have a very rich conversation. And I think that's the kind of the beginning of mentorship both ways, up and down. And there's just an opportunity for significant growth there. So I would start that with a question, and then we go from there.
I like it. All right. Now here's the real hard one. What resource, book, course, website, whatever, would you recommend to anyone looking to get started in real estate?
Hey, so, and I'm not just saying this because I've been pushing your guys' stuff for a while, but I think you guys create amazing content. So I would push people to your website. I think you have a diversity of different niches that you highlight there. Folks can gain an education. There's a plethora of knowledge, and then just through the podcast and what you and Alex do. I think Alex, you're a prolific writer. You put out a ton of content. Your videos and just the stuff you guys do. Again, I've told you guys this in private in our group, but you guys are doing awesome. So I would highly recommend, going to your resources and continue to do what you do and listen to the things that you guys put out and read the things that you guys write. Cause there's a wealth of knowledge there. And I'll tell you what, people can take action from that stuff. So it's a great one-stop shop. Other than that, books, get into some books. For me personally, things I like to read, I'm reading The Social Capitalist. So I just finished that. It's Josh and Lisa Lannon. They are the founders of Warrior's Heart, and that's an organization that Stu and I partner with. We give money to them, and they are phenomenal. It's all about how you can make a social impact through your businesses and things that we're talking about. Right, money is not the most important thing. How do you make a difference? And then read another book, Killing Sacred Cows. Been pushing that one for a while. Garrett B. Gunderson. Love that guy.
Girl told me to read that book, and then she unfriended me on Facebook because of some political thing that I said that was barely political.
I know who we're talking about.
It's on my list, though. It's on my list.
Hey, no, it's good because it's a mindset book about finances, and it just kind of challenges some of the conventional wisdom, quote unquote wisdom, and it really enables you to empower yourself and bet on yourself. Be educated, but bet on yourself. And so I really like that book.
So I wanted to take a second and say, you made some very nice words about David and I, but the reality is David does everything. And so I'm just as thankful to be part of this, of his, I've basically come in here and taken over, but it's a little disingenuous. He does everything. So David puts out really good content. I'm glad
he does.
I'm thankful to be part of it.
No, David does, but Alex, quit selling yourself short. We talked about this the other day. You create some amazing content.
What do I make the check out to for the pub?
David Gutierrez. It's 1 T, 2 R's.
But seriously, thank you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, man. No, thank you for what you do. And thank you for what you do. It's incredible. And Alex, don't sell yourself short, man. You got a lot of skills, and you add a ton of value. So no, you guys keep it up.
All right.
I started doing the intros for the Military Millionaire podcast.
You did it once, and I don't know what's.
We'll see if they work. We'll see if they or not.
It was definitely hype.
It's definitely hype. Wake you up.
Oh my God. Alex has that switch that I sometimes lack, or maybe I'm just not comfortable enough in it.
That's a skill.
My secret is I'm always hyped.
Yeah. Well, my secret is I get to go to sleep at night. So my hype shuts down at some point. I'll have to check out Social Capitalist. So I like Warrior's Heart. I've never toured their facility. I don't know as much about their program as I probably could, but I do know that a guy that I deployed with and a personal friend probably had his life saved by them. I mean, they turned his life around. So
They are awesome. We love them. Josh and Lisa, super busy people, and they make time to talk to Stu and I, mentor us, and they're incredible people, and they run a great program, and they are literally saving lives. They just had their 1,000th person come through the doors of Warrior's Heart, so huge milestone for them, and it's awesome, man.
Yeah, that's really cool. All right, so final and most difficult question: how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, sure. They can go to our website. They can hit us up. We're very, it's funny because I think we make ourselves very available, which is good. There's calendar links on our website. You can get in touch with Stu or I. And if you don't mind, throw the website in the
Absolutely.
show notes. But yeah, we're pretty easy. We're on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. That's an easy way as well. I am on Facebook. Hey, I'll tell you what. So I was going to tell you guys this the other night. I didn't have time to share my highs and my lows, but and this is probably not a great thing, but I cannot stand social media. Like, I just can't. Like, it's very hard for me. It's painful. But I do read your guys' stuff. So there's a compliment to you as well.
Let me ask you this, David, because I hear this all the time, right? I don't like social media. And people think that I'm some kind of natural at social media. I honestly, truly, deeply believe that social media is misused and I guess, for lack of a better term, understood. I wonder if I could put out some content that would help you get over. Let me start with this. I'll just say this: like, content, like social media, you should think about it as output, not input.
Yeah. No, you're right. And I recognize, and I was talking to Stu about this the other day, I know the advantages, and I recognize why it's critical. I am the type of person that there's a huge barrier. If I don't enjoy it a little bit, there's a huge barrier of entry for me. And that's a problem. I'm admitting that's a problem, because it's a missed opportunity on a free resource. Right. So I need to get better at it for sure.
I'm going to make you some content.
Awesome. Look forward to it.
Oh man. Yeah. It's funny because I haven't, like, my personal Instagram hasn't been updated in like a year and a half. So it's kind of similar. Everyone's like, they see my stuff all over the place. It's like, yeah, but like, I don't dislike social media. I enjoy, shoot, like, I definitely understand the whole dopamine thing right behind it. But I'm also not, like, it's not something that's natural for me. Like,
right.
I know it's hard to believe, but I was not always the popular kid in high school when I was homeschooled. So
some things never change.
When I was homeschooled, that's good.
Social media is not natural for anybody. I just think I don't know. For me, I like talking to people, and so for me, it's like it can, like, David, you started this. You're like, we found our group because we have, like, it's like a natural draw towards an echo chamber. In a good way, right? Like, I'm going to be drawn towards people that have similar values. Like, that's all social media is for me. It's a megaphone to catch. Actually, it's not a megaphone. It's a beacon. And it's like, hey, look, this is what I'm about. Anybody else? And then people are like, yeah, I like a fly to the light. Like, oh, yeah, pink. I like pink too. Oh, no. I like this guy's values. Oh, this guy's real. It's not like, and so these things that you believe, these values you have, you can express those on social media and people will be drawn to you. And so if you get into the mud with the idiots and start talking about idiot stuff, it's not fun or productive or useful, nor does it make your life better. And no, it helps nobody. And it only polarizes people. But if you use it as a beacon for attracting your other humans, I think, and then you don't let the nonsense, it's very easy to get wrapped up in that nonsense. But
that's good. That's good. Be intentional. I hear you saying be intentional.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's good.
Be intentional.
All right. Any
hopefully I answered your 3 questions to satisfaction. They were very challenging. I want to validate you in that.
Yeah, I have other questions on my, like, list of things, but
I should come up with some. I should come up with my question. That way, you're right. We should have a little bit more.
Yeah. Did you come up with anything?
No, I didn't. I fold under pressure.
there was a lot of pressure, let me tell you. So much pressure. You just disappointed the entire community by not coming up with a question about moon stars or whatever.
Okay.
Anyway, all right. Hey, David, thank you very much for joining us. I don't say this enough, but there's not a whole lot of people that I enjoy talking to you. Like every time we have a conversation, I don't ever leave on a like feeling like I didn't get something out of it. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate you. It's been a pleasure getting to know you this year.
Oh man, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, and always a pleasure to be invited to such an awesome show. And feelings mutual. You guys are awesome. You guys are crushing it. You guys motivate me. You energize me with the challenges and the amazing things you guys are doing. And yeah, keep it up. Thank you for having me. Alex's hair is a constant motivation for me as well. Look at that. Look at that.
Never get there.
Beautiful.
Hey, we should plug the War Room. If you're listening, you're not part of the War Room, you're missing out.
You're missing out.
It's
You're
true.
missing out. Surround yourself. Be intentional with who you hang out with. Surround yourself with awesome dudes and dudettes.
Dude, I did not really deserve to be in the room with you guys, that War Room, but it has helped me tremendously. So if people get in there, and people it will help.
You shut your mouth, Alex. You deserve to be there.
All right.
That's the
Freaking
thing,
awesome.
right? Like I hear that, right? Having worked on starting this and stuff, like we get that from people, right? Like it sometimes it's, well, you know, I'm the biggest fish in this little group, and sometimes it's the other way around. But like the reality is just realizing and owning what you bring to the table. Like even to the guy being the biggest fish in the group, maybe you have the most units, but maybe your units are, you know, less profitable per unit, or maybe that's great, but you don't know how to market. Maybe that's great, but like so it's a, I think there's an intricate value that everyone brings to the group. So like, you know, shoot, I remember when I was at Flip Hacking Live and I'm sitting at my desk and they're like, stand up if your business has done over $1 million gross. And Stu stood and I was like, huh? Like, wait a minute, you know, like, oh, okay. All right. I'm hanging out with the right people, you know, and I didn't realize Storehouse was doing, you know, as many deals as Storehouse had done last year. And I mean, shoot, already this year. Right. But there was still, like, I was still able to bring something to the table, even though I'm by no means the biggest, you know, so it's like trying to figure out, and that imposter syndrome for me is huge, but figuring out what your piece is in a relationship, you can always add, there's always something.
I'll tell you the challenge. And one thing, if I could leave with this, you know, I never think in terms, and I think it's natural to a little bit, but I've really been intentional in changing the way I think about things, but to not think in terms of like rank as being equal to significance. Right. And what's really helped me with that is that a lot of the guys that I serve with, the most junior enlisted sailors that come in, a lot of those guys have like 2 master's degrees in computer science and like have these life experiences that their knowledge shames me, right? I can't even keep up with what they're talking about. What I will say is that in the groups, like the money and the units and all that kind of stuff, completely unimportant. So at the best ever conference, you know, they talk, everybody starts and they say, oh, it doesn't matter that, you know, what the numbers are, but here's my numbers. And I'm like, I don't care about that. Like, what are your values? What are you doing to give back? And if you're not doing anything, if you're presenting me a great deal, 12% return annual with potential for equity buy and blah, 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 and you're not giving back to something or somebody in some way, like I'm out. I don't care. That number could be 20% return. I just don't care, because that has no eternal value. And it's not about it. Just, you're not sharing what you bring to the table. And so if Stu and I gross, you know, 10 million this year, to me, it doesn't change the fact that the dynamic in our group, I am gaining value and learning way more than you guys even know you're giving to us. And the money thing, the value thing, it could disappear tomorrow. It's of no importance. But what I have grown internally, mentally, the things you've exposed me to, the thoughts you've exposed me to, Alex, with the different books that you present, like that in itself has made me a better person and more rich in my knowledge. So yeah, that other stuff is just dressing.
War Room, join it.
War Room, get it.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening to another episode about my journey from military to millionaire. If you liked it, be sure to visit FromMilitaryToMillionaire.com/podcast to subscribe to future podcasts. While you're there, we'd love for you to rate the show, give us a review on iTunes. Now get out there and take action.